Hello, everyone, and welcome to MNM Mindset and Muscle. Now, we've already covered my entire training split, but as I mentioned before, I have two separate workouts for each muscle group that I train. So for week number 1, I'll do the workouts A for all of the muscle groups, and then for week number 2, I'll do workouts B, while I rest and recover from the exercises I used in workout A. That way I'm still stimulating the muscle, I'm still stimulating growth, but for example, if I do hack squats on quad day in week 1, then I'll do a different exercise for quads on workout B for week number 2. So my body is still recovering from those hack squats while I'm training quads. That way, when I get to week number 3 and I'm back on the A workouts, I'm fresh, recovered, and ready to go in progressive overload. So let's get into the B workouts. Today, we're going to be starting with shoulders and biceps, one of my absolute favorite. As always, I'll talk you through the exercises, how I do them, why I do them, and if you have any further questions at the end of the video, leave a comment down below and I will be happy to answer that. So without any further ado, let's get into today's workout. Let's get into this workout. So we started off with a reverse cable crossover for the rear delts. This is an excellent movement to target the rear delts. It's also a good exercise to do towards the beginning of your workout for shoulders, as it stretches out the front of the shoulder and warms up the rotator cuff and puts you in a much gentler position. This is an exercise where you can really focus on squeezing and targeting the muscle without going super heavy. So great to get some blood in the shoulder area, get everything loosened up, stretched out, and get a great pump in the rear delts before moving into any heavier compound exercises. So as with most exercises, I'm performing somewhat of an explosive concentric on the way back, pausing and squeezing the rear delts as hard as I can at the top, and then nice and slow and controlled on the way back down. We did 3 sets here. On the final set, I did a few extra partials to failure. This was the second set here, so we just did a straight set of 15 repetitions, just getting close to failure. So great exercise to get the delts pumped and ready to go. From there, we moved on to Smith machine shoulder presses. We did a couple of warm-up sets and built into one heavy set, aiming for 8 to 10 repetitions. Again, focusing on going nice and controlled here. After the heavy set, we rested for 1.5 or 2 minutes, and then we brought the weight down just a little bit and we performed a drop set. So I believe I went down to 225 to start the drop set, and then 185 and finished with 135, aiming for around 12 to 15 reps on each drop. Really focusing on keeping the control still and getting good tension on every single rep. After the Smith machine shoulder presses, we moved on to seated side lateral machine. I love this exercise. It keeps great tension on the side deltoids, and if you don't feel dumbbell side laterals, this can be a great alternative to focus on getting that mind to muscle connection before moving on to dumbbells. So nice and controlled, squeeze and pause at the top, slow on the way down. I try and stop just shy of the weight stack touching at the bottom to make sure I'm keeping tension on my delts the entire time. It's easy to bring the weight stack all the way down to the bottom, rest for a little bit, and do another rep. You never want to let the weight come off of the muscle. So I'm pausing just shy of touching down and then exploding back up into the next rep, squeeze and pause, control on the way down. Just like with the cable reverse crossovers, on the final set of the 3, we did partials to failure afterwards, but this was just the second set. Moving on, we did some incline bench rear delt laterals. We did 1 heavy set and 1 back off set here. At this point, I had a really good connection going with my rear delts, so I was able to do the movement a little bit more explosively than I normally would and still get a really good contraction in the rear delts. This movement is not about the weight, however, so check your ego at the door. This is how I feel them best, but use whatever weight allows you to really feel the pump and burn in those rear delts. After this, we moved on to 2 sets of seated side lateral raises. We did 1 heavier set. Actually, we did the same weight with both sets. Just 2 straight sets to really finish off the shoulders. Again, nice and explosive on the way at the top. It's really hard to pause with the dumbbells at the top using a heavier weight, but that was my mentality, was to try and pause the weight, and that gets that extra contraction in the side deltoid, and then really focusing on trying to go slower down. So it's really explosive up and then trying to take at least twice the amount of time on the way down as it took on the way up. Again, on the final set here, this was the first, but on the second we did partials to failure right after this as well. From there, we moved off of shoulders onto biceps. We started off with single arm dumbbell preacher curls. This is a great exercise to really focus on getting that peak contraction at the top. It takes the shoulders out of the movement and forces you to really isolate that biceps muscle. Keep your tricep and your elbow pressed firmly into the pad the entire time to deactivate the shoulder and force the bicep to do all of the work. I'm also adding a little extra supination at the top. That's the turning of the wrist, almost like I'm trying to turn my pinky finger towards my face at the top to really peak out that bicep contraction. You don't have to go super heavy on this exercise. This one is all about the form, all about the control on the negative, the squeeze on the way up, and really getting that good mind to muscle connection. We did 3 sets here after 1 warm-up. We did a light set, then we did a heavy set, and then we did 1 back off set. Really pumping the biceps, just focusing on nice fluid movement. Another thing that you'll notice I'm doing with the preacher curls here is I'm trying to keep constant tension and constant controlled movement on this exercise. I'm only pausing at the top if I really need to. It's easy to come up to the top and then just hang out there forever, because with the dumbbell, gravity is pushing straight down. So right now, it's pushing straight down into my elbow, which is resting on the pad. Therefore, there's not really much tension on the biceps. So I'm only pausing there at the top if I really need a break before diving into those last few repetitions. Otherwise, it's all about that constant movement and really keeping the tension, working on the muscle. After we finished up with the dumbbell preacher curls, we moved on to a cable curl machine. We did both arms together with this workout, as opposed to workout A where we do 1 arm at a time. The thing I love about the cable is this was the heavy set, so it was a little more explosive, but even with an explosive movement on the cable, you're keeping constant tension on the biceps. Unlike a free bar, when you use a little bit of body language to swing at the top, you're really using momentum and drive to help you swing that weight to the top. With the cable, it does very little to actually take tension off of your biceps, even though your body is telling you logically it should. So it really tries to throw in on those last few reps. You'll notice I'm using some body language, but still feeling an amazing contraction and tension on my biceps. Still focusing on going slow and controlled at the bottom. The first few repetitions, more controlled, and then doing a few of Arnold's favorite cheat rep styles to burn out at the end. So after the cable curls, we finished up with hammer curls. We didn't film that one. Pretty basic. We just did 1 set of going controlled for 12 to 15 repetitions with a 3 count negative on every rep before finishing off just busting it out, going to absolute failure until I couldn't do another repetition. So that was the workout. As always, let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. All right, so we've covered the muscle portion of mindset and muscle with the workout, so now we're going to dive into the mindset portion with the Q&A, answering some of your guys' questions. This is a good question that I get asked all the time, partially because I do have a longer neck, which does make it look a little bit skinnier. And while I'm not going for the big, like Brock Lesnar style WWE super thick neck look, that's just not the aesthetic I prefer, I am bringing up my neck and my traps right now in the off season. For the first time in a long time, I'm doing some direct trap work to target it, and it actually is coming along somewhat. I don't know, this isn't the best angle to see it, but you can see in the video, and you will soon as I post progress updates, that my traps already, just in the month that I've been doing these workouts and focusing on building them up, they have come up quite significantly. So that was definitely a goal we're working on right now to complete the physique, especially from the back. The goal isn't necessarily to have the Hulk traps touching the ears, but we do want a nice symmetrical overall look, in that diamond look where the traps come down from the neck and then lead into the shoulders, coming out wide and then tapering down the lats to the waist is just absolute perfection. So that's what we're going for. So we have been focusing a little bit more on that, specifically with the heavy deadlifts is going to be incorporating that. And then we are also doing some dumbbell shrugs. You can check out my back video that will be coming in a few days, and we'll go specifically over how I perform those. This is a question that I get asked all the time, and I know a lot of you think on it and wonder it, so I do want to address it again, even though I did on an earlier video. It depends on your definition. So lifetime, no. In my preparation for the Arnold Classic a little bit over a year and a half ago, I did run a cycle for that competition. It was a national level competition, and I was trying to get my pro card. Unfortunately, came up just short, finishing third overall. I needed to take the overall to get my pro card, and that won in Classic Physique. And so since then, it's been a year and a half since I have been on anything, including TRT, completely off of everything. So we're focusing on building as much as we can before potentially getting back into that side of things for competition prep. We'll see how far we can take this without before we need to potentially resort to some assistance. But the other reason I wanted to touch on this question is because this really does, in my opinion, dive into a big part of the mindset of bodybuilding that I've seen going on around social media right now. I see all the time in the TikTok comment section, Instagram, YouTube, just so much speculation and wondering. And for some reason, mentally, this has become such an important thing in the fitness industry, as I don't think this part of it necessarily falls into fitness and health. Even though it is a big part of bodybuilding, that's kind of a separate thing. So it just baffles me, like, how interested people are in this and how important it is to them on whether or not somebody is natural or not. And it's my opinion, why does that matter so much to you? That doesn't affect you. I see so many negative comments of people bashing people who look really good, who are natural, and accusing them of being on something, and bashing people who admit that they're on performance enhancing drugs and saying that they're going to die soon, and like all these horrible things in the comment section. And it doesn't make sense to me why that's so important to you people. Your mindset should be focused on yourself, what your goals are, how far you want to take it. If you want to stay natural, that's amazing. Do that. Achieve the absolute best physique that you can with that. But looking at somebody else and using their physique as an excuse as to why you can't get a good physique naturally, it's just stupid. And it's a poor mindset to have in order for you to achieve your goals. It's just going to be a mental block to stop you from achieving your goals, because you're going to put mental limits on yourself, whether it's subconsciously or consciously. Now, on the other hand, if you're going out there and you want to use a little bit of extra assistance to get you into bodybuilding, maybe you have good genetics for it and you want to see how far you can take it, then that's your choice, and go for that as well. Obviously, don't break the law, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying you should go out and do that or giving permission for any of that, but that's your decision. That's completely up to you, and no judgment from me, and don't listen to anybody who does spout negativity or judgment on that. But I just wanted to touch on that because it's so interesting to me why people are so hyper fixated on other people's statuses or not. That's like a whole target section of viral videos right now. You'll see so many YouTubers and so many TikTok people whose entire content is doing natty or not videos on people. And no matter what conclusion they come to, what evidence they provide, what blood tests, what anything, somebody's going to disagree. A lot of people are going to disagree. And whether you disagree or agree, it doesn't really matter. Nobody truly knows what that person is doing except for them. And that's the only person that it really matters what they're doing. Why does it matter to you what somebody else is doing. That doesn't do anything to help you with your goals, and certainly having a negative mindset and just reaching out and commenting and bashing somebody else's physique is not going to do anything to bring you closer to bringing your vision to life. So I just thought I'd touch on that a little bit because it really is an interesting phenomenon that I've noticed a lot in the fitness industry recently. Now, this is not to say that I condone people going out and lying if they are not natural, then and they are lying about it and claiming that they are, then I in no way at all condone that. I do believe you should be honest and transparent, or just not mention it at all. You're completely allowed to say that it's none of your business if somebody asks you. I prefer to be open and transparent about what I'm doing, but if you are one of those people who goes on and comments or spends hours a week, hours a month, like watching natty or not videos or thinking on what this person's natural status is, just stop it. You're wasting precious time. Life is short. You only have so much time to focus on yourself and on your goals and working towards those. Any time you spent negatively or interested in somebody else's business and what they're doing, it's just taking away time that you could work on yourself. So just something to think about. I love this question, and this is probably a bit of a cliched answer, though there are dozens of verses that I repeat to myself that are very encouraging. This is one of the first verses that I memorized as a kid, so there's that nostalgia factor in there as well. So I'll go with Jeremiah 29:11, which says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, and not to harm you, but to prosper you, and plans to give you hope in a future." So that verse has just always been very encouraging to me when times are hard or when I start to want to do things my own way or stray from a path that I know God is leading me down. That whenever I follow God's plan, looking back, things always make sense, even though they very often don't make sense beforehand or even when I'm going through them. I can see why when I step out in faith and look back later. So that's just a very encouraging verse that I often repeat to myself. There are many others as well, but thank you so much for that question. I absolutely love it. And thank you so much, as always, for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something. If you do have any questions about anything or future video topics that you would like to see, let me know in the comment section down below. As always, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Crush those goals, and I will see you in the next video.